And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A Bookish Moment. I'm Sarah Burr.
And I'm J.C. Kenney, and I am so excited because we have a magnificent author today who I had the great pleasure of meeting at Malice Domestic earlier this year. And so, Sarah, I think it's time. Let's get bookish.
I am so excited as well, JC. We are in for a treat as we kind of travel across the pond, as they
Indeed.
say, to visit my absolute favorite city in the world, London, where A Ghostwriter's Guide to Murder takes place, which is the brand new book by our fabulous guest, Melinda Mullet. Melinda,
Woo woo.
welcome to the show.
Thank you guys. It's great to be here. Good to see you, Sarah, JC.
We
Hey,
are so
the
excited.
yeah.
And you've had this wonderful whiskey business mystery series, 6 books out, and you're launching this brand new mystery with Maeve Gardner as our heroine. Before we kind of dive into talking about Maeve's absolutely like dream worthy life, in my opinion, and how much ghostwriting is both a kind of a curiosity of mine, but also a dream of mine. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself to get our readers a little bit more familiar with you if they haven't come across you before?
Absolutely. I spent a lot of years being kind of a nasty old lawyer,
Ooh.
and decided that after a while I couldn't do it anymore and I gave that up and decided to try my hand at something I've always wanted to do. Before I went to law school, my majors were medieval lit and
Ooh.
finance. So a weird combination at best. But from there, it's like I've always wanted to write a book. And so I decided to give it a try. So major career redirection. I live outside DC at the moment. I was born in Texas to two British citizens who I often say I was accidentally born in Texas, but it gave me a dual nationality, the country of Texas and the country of the UK. So
Hmm.
that's where I am right now.
So
That
you're in the UK right now?
No, no,
Is-
no.
Oh, okay.
I'm halfway between. I figure that's my landing spot, right? So
Okay.
DC, I do go back and forth a lot. I will be back in Scotland again in about 3 weeks. So.
oh, that
Nice,
sounds
nice.
so magical.
Yes,
And
we're not
I
jealous at all.
Yes. And I think it's so interesting that as, this is our fifth season of the show, and JC, you've mentioned this before when we've had other lawyers on, but it's amazing to see how many folks who have been practicing law have kind of gravitated toward this world of fiction writing. And I just find that so
Yeah.
interesting that what was it, Melinda, that drove you to or called you to writing mysteries out of all the genres that were out there?
Um, I mean, I would like to say it was because I spent a lot of time in criminal courts. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
I didn't. I did intellectual property law, but you do meet a lot of characters, a lot of interesting people, and I have read mysteries since I was little. I mean, we started with Scooby-Doo and Nancy Drew and all the Famous Five and all these other series that they had in the UK. And I cruised right on into Agatha Christie and Marjorie Allingham and all the golden age of mystery writers and still do. I mean, I still love a good mystery. And I think that's you write what you know.
Hmm.
I could not write romance novels. I don't read them. I couldn't write horror or, and thriller really because that's not what I read. But I
Hmm.
am comfortable in the world of whodunits.
Well, that is so cool. And so you teed up the perfect lead in for this question. Now, for both your series, are based in the UK, one in England and the other in Scotland. Talking about write what you know. Can you talk a little bit about choosing your settings there rather than, say, in the DC area or Texas where you were born?
I think probably I would say the UK is more my happy place. I am a little bit more relaxed there. My father was Scottish. He was a big whiskey lover. And although he passed when I was quite young and I didn't spend a lot of time going around whiskey distilleries with him, I certainly spent a lot of time with my husband going around whiskey distilleries. More than
Cheers to that.
Oh, more than I could count. I mean, some lovely adventures, driving in a little teeny car over the Grampian Mountains and all through the Speyside regions. And honestly, that's where the first series came from. Standing there listening to the same spiel about how whiskey is made for the 500th time, you do kind of look at this bubbling vat of wort and think, oh, that would be a good place to find a body. And and it kind of went from there.
Hmm.
That and honestly, there were a number of, it's very much a male-dominated profession, to be honest. And so my protagonist in the first series is a woman who is in a she's in journalism, in a male-dominated profession, but she winds up running this boutique distillery, which is even more of a male-dominated profession. And I was watching a lot of the women in Scotland who were making their way into whiskey making and just seeing the struggles that they were having. And it also became part of the series and the storyline.
That's amazing that especially the fact that like your real life experiences have so heavily influenced the set, not only the settings but just the challenges that your characters come up against. And before we kind of dive into your brand new release, the Ghostwriter's Guide to Murder, I want to catch up with our wonderful viewers who are chiming in on our chat. We have I think it's 3 Artiv saying hi, saying happy to be watching. DHB says happy Tuesday. 3 Artiv says, I love cozy mysteries. Farmhouse Reader saying good afternoon. Our friend the Fashionable Bookworm saying hello, everyone. And then we have a question from 3 Artiv asking about are your books available as audiobooks? Which is a very good question because I wanted to talk about how the Ghostwriter's Guide to Murder has this incredible like whole cast narration
Mhm.
and like what your experience was maybe hearing your characters come to life not only through one person's voice but through like a whole host of people.
Yes, both of them are available. The Whiskey Business Mysteries are available on Audible, and I have not listened to every one of them, but I must say the readers love the woman who does the voice reading on that, and it has been a lot of fun. I know there a lot of my fans say that they only listen now because of their hectic lifestyles, and
Nice.
it's really neat. When we came on to Ghostwriter's Guide, when they said they were going to do 4 for the main 4 points of view, it was something I'd never seen. Now that's with
Mhm.
Spotify, and Spotify does take slightly different approach than our friends do at Audible. And I think it's been very interesting to see how people are responding to that. I like to hear what people think of it for having 2 male, 2 female voices, and I got to listen to a lot of people before we chose who we were going to use for the different voices. And it does make it a bit more like a play or a podcast or, listening to something a little bit more interactive than
Mhm.
just one voice speaking to you through the whole thing.
So so we've got a follow-up question. Can you share the name of the narrator for your first series?
For the first series, now you've caught me, and I'm gonna blank on her name, and I feel terrible, old age, but
Oh,
I will get that for you.
yeah, no worries. And then, like Sarah says, we can always drop it in the show notes later for you folks.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be able
That is
to
a good
get that for you.
idea.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm sorry, Sarah. I've got this one question
Go
that
for
I've
it.
got to ask because my wife and I have still been watching the Great British Sewing Bee, which is some comfort TV. And
Yeah.
so, it's interesting because some of the accents are so easy for this, Midwestern kid to understand, and then some of them are not so easy. So when you're writing these books set in the UK, do you hear your characters speak in different accents?
I do. It's a very difficult thing, and that's probably the hardest thing in translating from UK English to American English is how much you go down that path and how much accent you give. Although I think it's probably a little easier, according to my husband anyway, to understand when it's written than it is when he's listening to, some of the mystery shows we listen to. And he'll have to keep pushing the pause button and say, what did they just say?
Yeah.
Yeah, because especially the Scottish and the Irish accents can be tricky, to say the least.
I do the same with podcasts. If I'm listening to an Australian podcast, I have to slow it down just a little bit more because it's like, what did they just say? And I know that I missed like a very important point of of the case.
Hmm.
But because we are talking about Ghostwriter's Guide to Murder, I'm wondering, Melinda, if you would for folks who haven't yet picked up the book, which if you guys are, if you're reading on Amazon Kindle, I think I saw today that it is a deal, a $1.99 deal
It
Yeah.
right
is.
now
It's
on
the deal of the
Amazon.
month.
So you can
So
scoop it up
yeah.
for a nice price. But
Uh-huh.
tell us a little bit about Maeve Gardner, and number one, maybe what is a ghostwriter, and why Maeve is a ghostwriter, and how does she find herself involved in a murder case?
Yes. Well, ghostwriting is something I hadn't really had a lot of experience with, but I was kind of intrigued by it. I do a lot of support to aspiring writers, and I know how difficult it is to get into the profession. And somehow this character just came to me as a woman who was working for a publishing company, wanting to be a writer, doing a lot of editing. She's talented at what she does, but she's not breaking into the industry in her own right. And so what they did was come to her and say, "Hey, we've got this guy who's written 37 books and he's been a real moneymaker for us, but he has reached a point now where he's at an age and he has some dementia. He can't write these books anymore, but we don't want to stop putting him out. He's still alive and we want to continue to do this. Would you be interested in writing?" And then, of course, she's stuck writing in his style, writing his characters, and writing things the way he would write them. And for her, it is a good thing because she's getting paid for it and she can at least comfort herself that she is a professional writer. She's getting paid to write what she's writing, but it's not her characters and it's not her. So there are frustrations that come along with that. And she's making her way through it. And she was dating a guy for 5 years that ended up being not a good relationship, and they split up, which is how she wound up living on this houseboat along Regent's Canal. They'd bought it together. It had started as his sort of weekend party boat called the Bottoms Up. And he would go out with his friends and party on the boat. After they broke up, she moved onto the boat, totally cleaned it up, renamed it The Writer's Revenge. And that's where she works on the books that she's working. And happily enough, although to warm up most of the time when she's doing her ghostwriting, she'll start by crafting a scene, usually something that involves a slow and gruesome death for Gavin, the ex, and on her computer. And she'll start with that, and then she's all warmed up and ready to go writing the story she's supposed to write. This is not a problem until one day Gavin is found floating next to her houseboat, having
Man.
whacked on the head. And when the police start looking at her computer, they suggest that she has fairly significant motive here because she has spent a lot of time picturing how best to kill him. So that's how she starts where she started and how she got where she got to.
That's a fantastic setup. I love that. There's just so much there that we could dive into. Can you kind of tell us a little bit? You've told us about what Maeve does. Can you talk to us then a little bit about her? Beyond the fact that Gavin totally did her dirty. Can you talk to us about her? What's she like? What does she want out of life besides to not go to jail for murder?
Well, that's tops on her list at that precise moment. But she does. She would like to be a writer, and she'd like to be a writer on her own terms and writing her own characters. So that is one of her main professional goals. But she's also finding that she's settling nicely into life along the river. She's got some quirky neighbors, interesting, fun people that live around her. One of her friends, a guy named Ashley, who lives on the boat in front of her, is a tech genius, and he spends most of his nights up late beavering away on a bunch of screens. And when he does appear, it's kind of like a mole coming out into the sunshine. And then behind her, she's got a couple of ladies who Divorced, well, widowed actually, both of them, and they now live together on a boat, having a grand time, putzing around, gardening, brewing their little strange little herbal things that they brew and sell at the local farmers market. And she's really finding herself and finding her life here along the canal.
I love that sense of small community that you've created in this in this canal,
Mhm.
because when we think about traditional or cozy mysteries, we have our small communities that readers love because they get attached to the folks that are a part of the community that are sleuth inhabits, and sometimes that could be a challenge in an urban setting because there's a lot going on in a city. But I think so many authors have this magical way of making these big cities also feel like a small intimate environment, and I think with the canal setup that you've done that even more, because like you've got a floating bookshop that's there, which I think is just like the coolest thing. Was that always kind of your intention of setting Maeve in a uh, small town setting, even though she is still a part of the bigger London lifestyle, or was that just something that kind of naturally grew out of the fact like I want her to live on a houseboat?
I suppose that was a little bit of both. I think you'll find all big cities have their little neighborhoods and their little tiny communities. I had a particular fondness for this community because I spent a lot of time as a child going up and down the canal. It was always a beautiful green oasis in the middle of everything, a place to escape. The Regent's Park Zoo is right along the canal, so there's a lot of greenery, and you can literally hear the noises of the chimps and the lions and stuff from the zoo as you're walking along the towpath. And the bookstore is modeled on a bookstore called Word on the Water, which is near Camden Town. And Camden Market has been a vibrant, sort of bustling commercial area for many years. It was the birthplace of the punk rock scene, which JC might appreciate. I don't know if that's
Yes,
your style or not, but Sid
absolutely.
Vicious and all those folks started there. Amy Winehouse.
Oh,
It's just a
wow.
tremendous musical tradition in that area, and also just lots of lovely the boats, little restaurants, cafes, and it's a lovely little community to stumble upon. And it's one that, if you get to London, I would strongly suggest that you go and just check it out because it's a
Mhm.
lovely day out.
I would agree because I think we actually went in February, where we went to the zoo, and then right afterwards like, oh, like we can walk along the canal, and it was just like such a very like peaceful, beautiful, very like artsy soul
Yeah,
that as you're walking through. So yeah, it's just such
a
a
little
it's
breather.
uh such a fun setting for a
Mhm.
mystery to happen in. And so I'm excited to find out whether or not Maeve has more adventures in store for her, and what might be next in her world.
Well, I think for those who've already read the book, or when you do, you'll realize that there's a lot of loose ends that didn't get tied up. There are people who were apprehended, people who were stopped from doing what they were doing, but there's also people, if you give it a little thought, that you realize that wasn't the last in the line of devious people. So yes, there are other things to be uncovered that connect to the problems she's had already. And as you can imagine, there's always new problems. The advantage of being in a city like London
Hmm.
is that there are plenty of things that can happen, even if you're living in a cozy little neighborhood within the city.
Fabulous.
So along that line, to kind of follow up Sarah's question, so let me make sure I've got it correct. The Ghost Writer's Guide to Murder came
Mhm.
out in July.
Yep.
Um, can you reveal maybe a title or when Maeve's next adventure will be coming out?
Well, I think you could probably guess that the next one will be the Ghostwriter's Guide to Revenge, because we've still got some of
Mm.
that to come, and we're not clear on the release dates yet. So
Okay. Okay. Something to look forward to, folks.
something to look forward to.
I
Yeah.
Yes, I love the revenge. Especially since we have the tie-in with the boat name, which is
Yeah.
very fun. I do want to switch to our chat because we do have some comments from Three Artive coming in. They say, I've been learning Irish for most of this year from a native Dubliner. I love the language and accent. I'm still getting used to the Scottish, though. It can be thicker than the Irish
Oh, yeah.
accent. Um, says that what we've been talking about sounds like a very fun read and listen. They're very get very attached to characters and the communities and the cozy mysteries that they read or listen, and they thank you for writing these books. Going to start the first in the series right away, and if you ever need a Irish accent for a female narrator, I guess Caroline Lennon does a very good Irish accent. So that's always good to have in our back pocket.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more though about ghostwriting for the moment, because I guess when I went into the book, my perception of what ghostwriting actually was changed a great deal. And I growing up, it rocked my world that Carolyn Keene was not a real person. Um, and Carolyn Keene, for folks who may not be in the know, she is the author of the Nancy Drew books. But that she wasn't even, not only was she not a real person, she had several different people ghostwriting the series after I think like the original 20 were written by Madeline, and I'm blanking on her last name. Elridge, Etheridge,
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Mhm.
And I, like, as a reader, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so jarring to almost know that like this person that I thought existed didn't. So I'm curious, like what's a ghostwriter's existence like? Is it something, we've talked about Maeve feeling this sense of like, these aren't my characters.
Mhm.
This isn't my tone or my style that I'm talking about.
Right.
Does that differ from ghostwriter to ghostwriter? Are there different types of ghostwriters? Maybe, share a little bit more about like what, how a ghostwriter goes about their writing life.
Yeah, I think it's just you'd have to be somebody that just enjoyed writing for the sake of writing, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not meant to sound disparaging. It's just you're not going to get, the credit or the exposure. I don't think that they could do now what they did with Caroline Keene because she became such, I mean, the books became so big that today people would want to see her on
Mm-hmm.
podcasts. They'd want to see her in person. They'd want to see her in book signings and so forth. And they use the name and one person, as you said, at the beginning as a writer. And there's a lot more cohesion between the first few dozen books that were written. And then all of a sudden you start seeing the other authors come in. And if you read them now as an adult, probably you're much more clued into the fact that they're not exactly the same. There are little bits and pieces of personality that come in, and sometimes they let it stay. Sometimes you'll get a call saying, well, we're not doing that. But you see it all the time on television shows. You'll get mystery shows that you love that are written by a particular author, and they've turned them with like Vera, the Vera series, for those of you who watch that. When Anne Cleeves wrote those books, Vera was a very specific character, but they've gone through all the books that she wrote now, and the TV series has been going on series after series, and there are ghostwriters basically that are recreating her characters and putting them into scenes and situations. And I think it would be fun to play with a really good character. Maybe not so much fun to play with one that you don't find so interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would be a particular person, I think, that would choose to be a ghostwriter.
That's a
I
great
would think,
example with the Vera show, because that immediately snapped me to thinking about Game of Thrones and how, we had all of George R. R. Martin's material up until a certain point, and then you can see like as soon as his work they weren't following his work, that it's just like, okay, now we're off the rails.
Yeah. Well, because
and
they're being driven by a very different motivational stream, right? It's
Hmm.
like what is going to sell as a visual product, which not all writers think of as when they're writing, is how is it going to look visually?
Which then on the other side of the coin, I think it could be there might be a little bit of a security blanket there because you're not finding yourself in a situation. I think it's Colleen Hoover who has started writing the new Poirot novels with
Mm,
Agatha Christie's Estate's blessing. To me, it's like, ooh, and granted, I will never be anything like Colleen Hoover, but
that's
to
big
take on a
shoes.
challenge like that, wow.
Yeah.
That is, I had no idea that that was happening. That is
Yeah,
very interesting.
yeah,
Mm.
But also her name is on the cover as well.
yeah.
Once
Hmm.
she is picking up the mantle of a writer, I guess to me, ghostwriter implies somebody who is not really being seen unless you dig quite deeply.
Yeah.
I think the difference with the Agatha Christie is that she is there on the cover and
Hmm.
you just see it.
I think we see ghostwriting, at least these days, the most in kind of celebrity memoirs where people that's like says that they're written by this person, but then you kind of go into the back and say, oh, and then the person who actually put like the sentence structure together is a ghostwriter,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
which is I guess way above my pay grade. But I do have a question for all three of us. If you had to pick a fellow author that you would ghostwrite for, who would it be and why?
Ooh. Um,
If you had to,
if I had
because I know
to.
we all love having our names on books.
I love Louise Penny's Gamache. I
Ooh.
would love to do that. I would not mind doing Anne Cleeve's Vera either, because
Mm,
I really enjoy Vera. I think she's a great character. So she would be fun to play with. Both of them would be fun to play with.
that, yes, I agree. JC, what about you?
Carl Hyacin.
I could
You
see
Oh
know,
him.
all of his totally out of control Florida stories
yeah,
right
yeah,
up
yeah.
my alley. That would be so much fun. But
Yeah.
again, I don't know that I'm sure I could never do it justice, but a guy can dream.
I think you
How
could.
about
I
you,
think you
Sarah?
could. I think if I could be a ghostwriter, I would do for Dan Brown because I
Ooh.
absolutely love, like, not only do I love Robert Langdon, but I love the like just the way that he marries history and religion with like thriller, like high action adventure. I There's just something about those books that I love them so much, and I would love to see. Uh, I would love to see Professor Langdon dust off his tweed jacket and do something fun. But I imagine like where I would suffer would be the research because I'm not a research oriented person when it comes to writing. Like I just want to make up
That takes a
stuff.
lot of research.
And this
Yeah.
takes a lot. I was like, okay, that's why I write my fun little mysteries instead of like these twisting, like historical plots that weave through time.
Yeah.
We're rapidly drawing to a close of our moment together, Melinda. So I want to make sure that for our viewers who want to keep in touch with you, where is the best place to stay connected? You know, your website. Do you have a newsletter? What social media are you most active on? How can they stay up to date with you so that they can watch for that release date for A Ghostwriter's Guide to Revenge?
Thank you. Yes, my website is just Melinda Mullet, and you can sign up for the newsletter on there and all kinds of notifications about where I'm going to be and who I'm talking with and what conferences and bookstores and so forth that I will be with, and all kinds of book notifications. And I am on Facebook at Melinda Mullet Author and also on Instagram.
Fabulous.
Nice. So speaking of, do you have anything in person coming up anytime soon that folks there in the DC or East Coast area should be aware of?
We just finished a whole roust of them, and we will be doing some more in the new year. But as I said, I am heading off back overseas in a
That'll be
few
great.
weeks. We do some stuff over there, so
Oh,
exciting
nice.
times.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And we like to kind of conclude every episode, Melinda, by not only adding your book to readers' to be read list, but we want to know what you're reading. What are you listening to? Podcasts, TV shows, movies, any recommendations that have just been entertaining you these days that you want to share with our audience members?
Well, I'm reading Richard Osman's latest. I just picked that up, which is very exciting. I'm also reading a book called The Secret Life of Trees, which is research for another
Ooh.
series that's coming up. Let's see what you say. What watching Slow Horses, having a lot of fun. Really, really enjoying that and listening to the brand new Florence and the Machine and Taylor Swift, which both just came out.
Yes.
So, having, so much to do.
Nice. How
That's
about you,
fabulous.
Sarah?
So I am still, I mean, even though Halloween has come and gone, we are still trying to keep with the spooky spirit. Over the weekend, we watched, I think, Paranormal Activity 4, which took actually place in, I think it was in Ireland, an Irish castle. And it
Mhm.
honestly, it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. And gave me just like Dateline vibes, which I love. So I was like, oh, this is great. And listening, my good friend Elle Hartford, she who has joined us here before on a Bookish Moment, she recommended a new podcast series. It's called The Binge, which is it's just like a heaven for me because every month they release like this in-depth reporting of a particular case. The one that I just listened to, oh gosh, it was about the vanishing of Janice Rose, I think was the name. And it was not what I expected whatsoever. I was absolutely hooked. I listened to it in a day. I was like, I need to
Oh,
know the end of this case
so you
because just
binged
when you
it.
think that I did binge it, yes. Just when you think you know what happened to this poor woman, it a curveball comes and it just like
Yeah.
blows everything out. I was like, I will never look at true crime podcasts the same. So it was a great one. JC, what about you? Any recommendations?
So I just started listening to kind of dovetail off of Melinda's point, started listening to Clown Town, the brand new, the latest Mick Herron Slow Horses book.
Yep.
And now I'm having visions of Jackson Lamb and his crew of misfits running around town trying to save London from being blown up, while Maeve is trying to figure things out there on the water. So that's just such a fun visual in my head. Also want to do a little musical thing. Brandy Carlisle's brand new album, Returning to Myself, just came out. So I've been
Mm.
listening to that a little bit. And then also a TV show with a Halloween vibe, Surreal Estate. I found it on Hulu. It's
Ooh.
a Canadian show, ran for 3 seasons. It's about realtors who work, their specialty is selling challenged houses because
Oh.
ghosts live in the houses. It stars Tim Rozon and Sarah Levy, so a couple of Schitt's Creek
Oh.
veterans, and that just makes it even more fun. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
Surreal Estate has been a lot of fun.
Literally
Okay.
going to watch that right now. Oh, I
Okay.
also forgot. Another binge that I did was the newest season of Selling Sunset. That's like my guilty pleasure reality TV show. Oh my gosh, what a hot mess that show is. But it was just like the like crazy chaos that I needed to be like, oh, okay, life is good for me. Because these people are, oh my gosh, off the rails. But this has been absolutely delightful conversation, Melinda. Thank you so much for joining us
Yes.
today. It was wonderful to get to know you, get to meet Maeve, and very much looking forward to what's in store for her next adventures as the series continues. So we hope that you'll swing by maybe when book 2 comes out, so we can chat about what's new on Canal Life. But until then, we again thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you. It's been a delight. Absolutely. Now everybody get out and vote if you haven't already
Yes,
done so.
yes, folks. Thank you for our wonderful audience members who joined us here live. We very much appreciate all of your comments. And Melinda, I definitely want to let you know that we have 3 art of saying that it was very nice to meet you. And thanks you very much for writing your book. So, folks, we very much appreciate you guys being here with us live. Any folks that are joining after the fact, feel free to leave us comments. We always love hearing from you. And yes, please, please vote. It's
And after you've voted, reward yourself by going and getting your copy of Ghostwriter's Guide to Murder. It's only $1.99. Come on,
There you
you
go.
yes,
earned it by casting your vote. There you go.
you have most certainly earned it. Thank you guys for being here today.
Thank
And
you.
until we see you guys next time, stay bookish, everyone. Bye bye.